Welcome. The man sitting across from me in a jail consultation room had a difficult personality, to be sure. More specifically, he was a narcissist who was also paranoid. For the record, that's a bad combination. You probably didn't need me to tell you that. This man had been charged with the offense of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. The deadly weapon was a broom. The identified victim was his girlfriend of only a few months. After I explained to this man I was working for his defense attorney and that anything he told me would be confidential per his attorney-client privilege, he grunted as if to say that assurance did little to increase his confidence in me. He simply told me he didn't like his attorney and had thought about representing himself, which was probably a backhanded slap at me too. I don't think he was real excited that I was there. Within 3 minutes, I identified 5 characteristics in this man that are common to narcissists who are also paranoid. The first one was this: he didn't want to relinquish control to me even after I assured him I worked for his defense team. He wanted to be in charge. The second thing I learned is that he was very guarded in what he wanted me to know about him, even though his behavior told me a lot. The third thing was that he assumed I was untrustworthy, even though he didn't know me. Thus, he maintained an emotional distance from me. That's a safeguard. The fourth thing I learned about him was that he was intentionally abrasive in a way that kept a safe emotional barrier between me and him. This is how he dealt with people. And then the last thing I figured out about him real quickly was that he wanted to know what I could do for him, but he was disinterested in how he might help me help him, if you understand what I'm saying. I told this man I had already been to the DA's office to review his file, and I reminded him that there was a body cam video of his interactions with the police officers who arrested him. When we eventually got around to me asking him to describe the event leading to his arrest, he agreed with most of what was contained in the police report. He agreed that he and his girlfriend had gotten into an argument. He agreed that both parties had laid hands on one another, and that a broom was used as a weapon, and that his girlfriend called 911 to ask for police assistance. However, the similarities in the police report and this defendant's self-report pretty much ended there. Common to the paranoid narcissist, his interpretation of that event in question differed greatly from his girlfriend's point of view and certainly from what the police entered in their report. Before we go further into looking at this case, let me point out something. It's an obvious point, but if you keep this in mind, it'll help you maintain your composure if you've ever been forced to deal with a person who is as single-minded as a mistrusting, paranoid narcissist. Here's the point. Whenever we reconstruct a memory of whatever has happened to us in life, our account of that event not only includes the recounting of what happened, but memory is colored by our interpretation of what happened. Memory involves not only recalling facts, but interpreting those facts, if you understand what I mean. The defendant was charged with a crime because police officers believed he intentionally struck his girlfriend with a broom, knowing that some act could or would cause her physical pain. After police arrived on the scene, their task was to sort out what happened. One officer took a statement from the narcissist, while the other took a statement from the victim. Okay, here's the victim's memory. Here's her interpretation of what happened. She said something that upset the defendant. She stated that she complained that his brother had unnecessarily cussed at her the previous day, and he didn't like it, meaning the brother. She said she told her boyfriend so that he might protect her, but he took great offense at her criticism of her brother. She had hoped he would see her point of view and come to her defense. When this woman refused to back away from her point of view, the man got angry and struck her, at first with a backhand. After she called for police help, then this narcissistic, paranoid boyfriend became really angry and that's when he hit her with a broomstick that happened to be nearby. Okay, here's the defendant's memory of what happened. That is, this is his interpretation. This man told me that his girlfriend spoke rudely about his brother, so he told her no one talks bad about him, even though, according to his records in the DA's file, he'd been arrested once before for assaulting this brother. Okay, this man's memory, his interpretation included that when he tried to reason with his girlfriend, she refused to listen. That was a quality he said was all too common in her. And then he explained that once the argument rose in intensity, he claimed that to feel threatened by the girlfriend, and he simply pushed her away in self-defense. When she refused to back down to his reasonable, in his terms, his reasonable demands, he felt he had little choice but to pick up a nearby broom and use it as a protective device. He disputed that he used it as a weapon. In fact, he strongly disputed it. Okay, remember a moment ago I said the police officers believed the girlfriend's story and arrested the paranoid narcissist rather than the girlfriend. Here are some key insights about the personality disorder of a paranoid narcissist. There's three things I want to point out to you. The first is this. Virtually all paranoid narcissists become emotionally rigid somewhere along the way in their psychological development, usually at a pretty young age. Somewhere, for some reason, they surmise that to be emotionally soft sets them up for an injury. You'll often hear the words narcissistic injury in reference to a person who is easily offended and easily hurt and tries to overpower someone else because of their narcissism. And that injury can be either emotional or physical. When I asked this particular man about his relationship with his family of origin, he very angrily told me that his father loved alcohol more than he did him. I thought that was diagnostically significant, especially the anger that he showed me. He disregarded his mother because she refused to stand up to his father. Ironically, he failed to see that he had become his abusive father, and he expected the women in his world to stand down to him, just like his mother had done to his own father. This man told me that very early in life, he decided he would never again let anyone beat him, figuratively or literally, again. He consciously determined the only way he could safeguard against harm was to take charge, and so he did, whether or not it was to his advantage. What he failed to understand was that by adopting a suspicious, self-centered interpretation of life, he gave up the possibility of the very thing he longed for as a child, which was love and affirmation. Thus, one of the things we can state is that the paranoid narcissist does not know how to love himself or others. Okay, a second thing here. Because the paranoid narcissist is so commonly emotionally fragile, in his mind, any threat to his superiority must be immediately met with force, no matter the harm that might be done in the process. Let's look again at how the defendant in this particular case interpreted his assault on his girlfriend. He truly believed it was her fault. Weeks after I visited with this man in jail, he went to trial for his offense. I was in the courtroom, and against his defense attorney's advice, he took the witness stand because he truly believed he could convince 12 jury members and one judge that his girlfriend should be on trial, not him. He believed his interpretation of the offense was proof of his innocence in and of itself. The defendant was angry and dismayed when he was found guilty of the crime. Thus, here's another thing we can state about him. The paranoid narcissist has very low self-awareness. Okay, a third thing we can say. While most paranoid narcissists don't like to endorse symptoms such as anxiety and depression, they are just that. They tend to be tense and deeply unhappy people. When I talked to this defendant in jail, he explained that in his mind, A perfect marriage is one in which his wife allows him to take the lead. She fulfills her assigned duties, and he is the boss. Thus, we can state that the paranoid narcissist sees relationships as me versus you, black versus white. There is no middle ground. A person of this nature defines happiness as me winning instead of you. The sad truth about paranoid narcissists is that narcissism is often an enduring trait that resists change. Sometimes hard-earned life lessons or a long series of defeats or a heavy dose of reality convinces the narcissist to alter their course in life. All too often, however, the paranoid narcissist sees no need to change. They truly believe others need to adjust. To try to convince a narcissist he needs to attend therapy can feel like boxing a windmill, don't you know? You're going to lose that fight. I'm psychologist Lee Carter. In the next part of this series on the paranoid narcissist, I'm going to tell you the story of a man who actually did make positive adjustments in his personality, but it took several years in prison to get him there. I hope you'll stay with me as we look at this personality disorder and try to learn as much as we can about them. I'll look forward to being with you again soon.